Hello, this is Steve Ramona, your host for Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I want to thank our sponsors, Infone, and with Infone, you can place your business on everybody's cell phone, turn their business into a web app, and with a click of a button, they'll have access to you 24/7. And also Pantheon.fm. Have you ever thought about monetizing and taking your podcast to the next level? Well, Pantheon can do that. Let us show you how. Reach out to Steve Ramona, the host, at infone.co/SR1, and I will go over with you how you can make your podcast really stand out. Let's enjoy the show. Thanks again, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. This is your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm excited to have my guest on today. We were just talking earlier. Leadership is so important nowadays with COVID, the economy, and everything that's happening. But my guest has a very unique way to educate you on leadership, but where it sticks in your head. And when you're going out and about in your world, you'll remember some of these tips. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steve. This is a cool show. I appreciate you inviting me.
Well, I'm an honor to have you. You've got a lot of awards. You were real famous in Vegas. So let's start your entertainment journey and what got that going.
Yeah, I started my career right as I became an adult. I moved to Las Vegas and went to the Legends in Concert, which is an impersonator show. And I tried out as Elton John and Ricky Martin. I first landed it as Ricky Martin, which is the Bon Bon Shaker Latin Lover. For those audience members that have no idea who that was, he was a big hit in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then after impersonating him for a little bit, meaning impersonation in that show means you have to sing exactly like that artist, look exactly like them, dance, move, clothing, really embody the character, nail their signature moves. And so I tried out for Elton John. They told me I was nowhere close. So about a year later, I had figured it out, tweaked the voice enough. I was able to then really fool the audience by opening the show as Elton John, coming to the stage a little bit, a couple of characters after me as Ricky Martin. And so that was a pretty cool thing to be able to do both and pull off these two iconic characters. And I learned really early on how to not only find the voice and discover the signature moves of a great artist, but also how to teach others to discover that in themselves. And that's really where my career has gone through the years. After being an impersonator in Vegas, I guess I became one of the top guys in the world of being able to do something so niche, so unique. And eventually it led to teaching leadership. How weird is that?
What a pivot, whatever we want to call it. I know the audience is thinking, I'm thinking it. Can you give us a quick Ricky Martin?
Yeah, the Ricky Martin, let's see. From my office chair, upside, inside out, living la vida loca. And the Elton John was like, let's see, blue jean baby, LA lady. So he had like a little bit of a different sound, but each artist was fun. I eventually left Legends, put together a one-man show of like 100 impressions that were kind of more comical. I lean into the comedy because I think it's funnier to almost lampoon the artist without being mean. I like to make fun of things like the Bee Gees, singing way high. So that's what I'd say. Instead of staying alive, I'd say, sing away high, well, sing away high, ha, 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 so like that kind of thing. And then I would do Louis Armstrong, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world, and so I'd bounce in between lots of characters. I became known as a guy that could do a show at the end of a corporate event after people had been sitting there for 2 or 3 days, tired, worn out from all the speakers, and then they would introduce an unknown entertainer who would stand up and try to keep them in the room for another hour before going out to gamble. That was my job, was to entertain them in a clean, family-friendly corporate setting at a Las Vegas level. And so I did that for years, and that was a fun way to make a living before I went from 9 p.m. entertainment option to 9 a.m. leadership keynote speaker.
Again, a big change. And I love the fact that comedy makes everybody attention aware, because when you make people laugh, they're going to listen more. Tell us how you tie that to your leadership speeches because I've seen a few of them, and listeners, you need to go reach out, Google him. He's an incredible speaker, not just because his content, which is fantastic, but keeps the engagement of the audience. Talk more about that.
Well, thanks. I've worked really hard to make that transition because it's tough. When you're an entertainer and you're used to making people laugh, then you're assuming that as a speaker, you need to just make people laugh as a speaker. That's a no-no, because then they'll think, well, he's just trying to be comical and this isn't a speech I need to listen to. I had to learn really early on that you need to pick your spots. But yeah, of course. I mean, comedy is the ultimate connection point. And whether that's in the United States where everybody's speaking English and can understand me, or if I was just in Macau, which is the Las Vegas of China, and they did their conference in English, but not everybody understood the funny quips and puns and things that I was telling. And so luckily, through the music, through the faces, through the way I use my body, that made them laugh. And there's a connection between us when we make each other laugh. It's a different level, and it's a wonderful thing. And so they always say, how do you want to be a speaker? I mean, if you want to be a speaker that gets paid, you need to make them laugh. And so I've utilized that through the years. It's been a very important concept. But whether that's a funny story, funny face, funny impression. I mean, I do a thing where I talk about trying to perform for accountants. Accountants are stereotypically, they laugh inside their body. And so I make fun about trying to perform for a group of accountants. They just silently watched me laughing hysterically without me knowing it. And then when they were, and the speech was over, they gave me a standing ovation. And I thought, well, where were you? You didn't even clap for me or laugh the whole time. They were just analyzing. So I do a whole thing about how it feels as a performer to perform for accountants, and I sing "The Sound of Silence" by Simon and Garfunkel. And, that makes everybody laugh. So,
oh my God, that is so good, Jason. Well, let's take entertainment in Vegas, which is different than what you're doing now. Are you connecting with people on a different level, on a deeper level, with your entertainment and your leadership talk than you were just doing entertainment?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think that was one of the reasons I wanted to make that transition. Obviously, there were plenty of reasons to do so, whether it was health or just family time, other things that I had going on. But really, I wanted to connect with the audience in a way that really I felt good about. It's one thing to make people laugh and do a bunch of comedy and music that makes them feel good. That's awesome. That's plenty for a lot of performers. For me, however, I'd grown up listening to and watching great speakers. I'm a self-help book loving guru. And so as a guy that loves that stuff, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you saw a speaker that made you laugh, but also then, opened up your heart to learning through the laughter, and then planted a message in your mind that would just completely change the way that you live and would shift your leadership. And so, yeah, that's still the goal. That's still what I've been trying to do. And I call it the promise. And I came up with the promise because every performer that takes a stage, they have an audience, and their promise to that audience is to deliver what only they can deliver. And those are their signature moves. And so every single one of us has signature moves that we need to share. Most of the time we hide them from the world because people maybe told us, you need to hold back. You need to not shine your light so bright. But as a performer, you have to give your all, your best, your signature songs, your greatest hits. And when you do, you're keeping the promise. But I mean, if you've ever been to a concert where an artist comes out that you're expecting to hear a certain song and they don't play it, that's a broken promise between the performer and the audience. The audience, they want to cheer you on doing your good stuff, but they want the great stuff. And so often performers miss the mark on that. If I ask the question to an audience, hey, you ever been to a concert where the artist didn't play their hits, and they all raise their hand? They all have a story of some guy that broke the promise to them. And then I just say, we don't want to do that for our audience either. For our clients, our customers, our members, you name it. Whatever leadership position you're in, are you keeping the promise to your audience? And they're like, oh, what is mine? Like it really tinges their brain. It's a cool thing.
Before we go any further, I want to do a shout out. Any of you out there have a company, you need to hire Jason. And I'm going to put my money behind that. How can they reach you to hire you to speak at their corporate gigs, or kind of the things or events? Gigs probably the wrong word, but what you do.
Gigs the word, man. I love gigs. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Some people think that's a That's a no-no, but I love the word gig. That's where I come from, so I'm cool with that. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you just go to jasonhewlett.com, and Hewlett is Hewlett. In fact, my email is just jason@jasonhewlett.com. And you could even text me if you wanted, 801-674-3668. I'm one of the few people of my, at my caliber or level that has my cell phone on my website, but I'm that interested in having you get a hold of me.
No, and that's a servant's heart. It's like, hey, I'm not going to hide back from it. And I'm going to add something to this, Jason. The first 5 people that reach out to you, I'm going to send them a $20 Amazon gift card. So
Oh.
listeners, mention this show, mention my name, either one. Jason will know, okay, I need to reach out to Steve, and I'll instantly send you. There's no gimmies, there's no takeaways. It's just, this guy is the real deal. If you want to change a culture in your business, because I've watched a lot of his speeches, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to give 5 $20 Amazon gift cards. So he'll just reach out to me and we'll do that.
Steve, that's incredible, dude. I've never had anyone do that.
Oh.
That's the ultimate servant's heart. You're like living your podcast message. I love it.
Hey, Jason, amen that you said that. And that leads to me, you said something earlier, your voice. And that was my voice there. Let's talk more about that, because it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, the voice. I mean, so my voice started to crap out after about 10 years of doing my career. In fact, I had to go to the ENT, which is the ear, nose, and throat doctors, and they would put a video camera down my throat. And they were like, "What are you doing for a living?" And I would show them, and they would go, "Oh, no, you can't do that much longer. Your voice is going to be ruined." And there are singers that have had to have surgery. They have paralyzed themselves on their vocal cords and other things. I was headed in a direction that was not sustainable. And so I did have to shift my career, because I was doing, like I said, 100 musical impressions. So I would blast through stuff that was bad on my voice, like Guns N' Roses' Axl Rose. And then I'd go into Metallica or Led Zeppelin or Bruce Springsteen. Think of those great singers and what they did to their voice. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, you name it. I was ripping my vocal cords apart. So I had to shift. And it's really hard when somebody tells you that the thing that you've made your career on, you now have to stop doing. I had to go, well, what's next? And they did say there are probably voices that won't hurt you. And those are the ones I've already shared, even the Louis Armstrong. And I think to myself, that actually doesn't hurt. I just found a good spot for it in my voice. But there are places in the vocal cords that can be easily damaged. And so I had to retire a bunch of pieces. It was really tough, Steve, to walk away from parts of the show that people really, that for them was their greatest hit. And when they eventually understood my promise to myself, that superseded the promise to the audience. Yeah. And that's a really interesting thing when your audience at least understands through communication. Let's say you changed a product and they're like, "We don't want your product anymore." Well, maybe you could tell the story as to why you had to change the product. Maybe you could communicate a little bit as to your promise to yourself, and then they'll actually have sympathy and want to buy it more. That's actually what I found out was the case. I said, "Hey, this is damaging my body. It's possibly going to ruin my voice completely. So I apologize. I can't do some of those numbers tonight, but let's do these others." And then they would support me even more. It's interesting how our audience will come to our rescue when they understand the story behind making a big change.
And you were open and transparent. Yeah. Instead of just hiding it, you're like, "Guys, I can't do this. I miss it, but let's see what I can do to make you laugh." I love that. And I love you said, tell a story. Talk to me about comedy and telling a story, how powerful that is.
So I would say that the best stories would either be a real dramatic one, which obviously we've seen millions of movies like that, and then there's the comedy side. I personally lean into the comical side. So if I'm telling, let's say I do a 45 to 60-minute speech as a keynoter, I will mostly do a story or 2 per point. So if I have 3 points, then I'm doing 6 stories, but one of those is dramatic. The other 5 are comical. And that's because that the laughter truly sends those endorphins that opens it up to all kinds of opportunities to teach and to reach the heart of the person. And in fact, it actually reaches the intellect of the very analytical people. And that's really an interesting thing for me, because speaking to accountants, IT guys, engineers, they needed me to tell a funny story in a way that intellectually stimulated them so that then it could go to their heart, the message, to change something. Whereas if you're a sales guy, you're most likely a hugger. You know, you're loud and you're doing what you do as a maybe executive and so forth. And so those people are mostly right with me with the heart, laughing right along.
Right,
And
right.
and then the thing that really touches them obviously is those dramatic stories, because then they're like, wow, that was a big shift from the comical to the dramatic. And yeah, so I tell a story in a dramatic sense about my son and when he was little, and I realized I wasn't purely focused on him while we were having a daddy and a son day together, and I was looking at my phone. And so I talk about the distraction of a phone, the power of being present as a dad. And I say, I wanted to be the kind of dad that any kid would want to have, and made a promise to myself to be that. And that's by being fully present, putting the phone away when around my family. It's made all the difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, people just, whoa, they lean into that in a big way. And then I hit them with some more comedy.
Bring them down, bring them up, bring them down. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell us some stories. You've done a lot of speeches with the comedy and leadership. You have any great stories of people coming up to you that you changed their lives and how leadership changed their lives?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool when you get texts from people that just say, hey, I had no idea that this was going to be the thing I needed to hear this week. You know, there's usually a lot of speakers that I'm on the agenda with, and I'm always floored when somebody does come up and say that resonated with me to such a degree. I mean, I've had people come up after and say the comedy story of TJ the shuttle driver, which is a classic that I tell. It's about an airport shuttle driver who got us all in the shuttle at the long-term parking before we went to our cars from the airport. And she comes on and goes, well, hello everybody and welcome home to your airport. I need everyone to say yeehaw. You know, so I tell this story about this really wild experience on the shuttle, how she's like demanding of all of us as uninterested audience members to say yeehaw as we're driving. And she was an absolute servant's heart. She was telling jokes and didn't make sense to anybody, but she was laughing herself, and she's grabbing people's bags and helping everyone off. And I said, this lady is unbelievable. This is the ultimate legendary leader. Like, talk about a servant's heart.
Yeah.
And so she keeps this promise every day to essentially perform in a very, we could call it a mundane job. She makes it extraordinary because that's her personality. And I've had people come up after and say, hey, I saw her, 3 weeks ago. She was still doing that. I can't believe you shared this, but that was a game changer for me to think about her doing her job and then hearing you speak about it. I'm going to do that in my job. I can add more of what I bring. For some reason, I have not shared it. And I think it's because I'm scared, and that just gave me the courage I need. And I'm thinking, well, that's the whole point of the story. I'm glad that they got it. That, yeah, sometimes we just need permission to courageously step into our signature moves and keep the promise and share what only we can, because we're pretty powerful. We're pretty awesome if we're willing to go there.
Yeah. And she kept her, I'm going to go back to what you said beginning of the show. She kept her promise. Every time she did the shuttle, she was going to laugh at herself, laugh, and make sure it was fun for everybody.
Yeah,
and look what happened.
I like to say that she didn't set a goal to do it, because a majority of us were not on board with her, even though we were trapped in the shuttle.
Yeah.
A goal wouldn't have been strong enough. You set a goal, you miss it, you set another one. But if you make a promise and break it, that's a one and done. And so at some point in her life, she made some subconscious promise to herself to say, I'm going to share whether people think they want it or not, because I know in the end they're going to love it. And I just find that so powerful that she would do that. And when we make a promise rather than a goal, I like to say, why set a goal when you can make a promise? Not to say goals aren't important, but goals are particulars, or promises are proclamations. So what do you proclaim to become? What do you proclaim that you're going to do for your audience, for the family you work with, for the family at home, and for yourself? And when we're willing to do that, instead of just set a goal and maybe miss it and then set another goal in the future, why not make a promise and keep it? It's a powerful concept.
Very powerful. And you could spoke about anything. You could do speeches on sales, customer service, whatever. Why did Jason pick leadership with his entertainment as that part of your speech?
Yeah, cool question. I mean, I can do sales, customer service, customer experience, you name it, but I do enjoy the leadership because I believe that every person in every position is a leader of that position. I believe that all of us have leadership on and off our stage, whether it's at work or at home or at play. And so I feel that leadership is the ultimate umbrella that encapsulates all that makes this world a great place. If all of us viewed ourselves as somebody who is a leader in what we do,
Yeah.
then we would take more responsibility, more accountability. We would watch out for other people more. We would feel, like we can create community wherever we go. And the promise is the highest level of engagement we commit to in any experience. So it's something where you say, I promise myself to be a leader in this situation. If we see something happening that's wrong, can we stand up for it? If we see somebody having a problem, can we step in to help? I think that all of us have leadership within us. And as I've worked on this, communication style and on in the speech and on leadership for so long, it feels like it's the right path. And I'm grateful that people have accepted that.
Yeah, amen. I love that. And promise sounds like what I'm learning from you, and it's my notes are like going crazy here. That's tied to lead. Promise and leadership almost have to be together to be a good leader, correct?
Hey, I sure don't like the leaders that broke promises to me. I'm not
Yeah,
going to follow them. I'm not going to
yeah,
do what they say. If they don't say if they don't do what they say, then I don't know if I can do what they need me to do. So I
yeah.
can't trust them. There is a level of trust there. There's a level of communication. There's this level of engagement. And I'm still trying to figure out how to be a better leader myself. And that's part of the point of this whole thing is, can we improve? Yeah. Can we push? Yeah. But can we also lean into what we're good at? It's the accumulation of all of our gifts and talents and skills that make us who we are. And if something I want to be a better leader is part of that, then what are we doing to better ourselves? I think one of the things that's neat about your podcast and your work, Steve, is that you're a living embodiment of that by just doing this podcast, giving people a chance to improve their leadership, to keep a promise, to live better. So I applaud you. I applaud your audience and anybody who's seeking to improve that. That's the level of the promise we're looking for.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And what I'm learning is, I love that you said you're still not, you're still learning to be a leader, and you've done hundreds of speeches on leadership. You can answer pretty much every question, but we're all learning. Once we stop learning, we die. And it's a terrible phrase, but you get what I mean. Saying you're literally
I,
die, but you diminish a little bit.
I think you die in terms of energy, in
Yeah,
terms of excitement for helping. I'll tell you, I was forced into a leadership position just in the last year that I did not want, but the leader stepped down and I was asked to step up. I absolutely did not have time for this. I I was not paid. I don't even have a stake in what I'm leading actually. I'm not an owner. I don't have shares. There's nothing in it for me outside of these people are important to me. And being able to lead in that situation and turn things around to some extent, it's nothing that I did outside of just showing up and being consistent. Showing up and saying, hey, let's fix this. These are a few ideas. Let's lean into the talents and the gifts of everybody that's on this board. Let's get everybody using their gifts, not just squandering what somebody has to say. Let's utilize the talents of the people on the team. And I'm telling you, it's teaching me even more about leadership just by having the opportunity to lead something I'm not getting paid to do. And I'm really grateful for this experience. I'm excited for it to be over, to be candid, eventually. But I'm also like, wow, that was a great chapter in my life to relearn a new level of leadership that I haven't had for a long time.
and leadership is not all about money. You just proved it right there. It's about
Yeah,
the people. If it's money is a prerequisite to be a leader, then you're not going to be a good leader. I hope you agree with that. I hope I'm saying the right thing.
100%, man. Yeah, I mean,
Amen.
a majority of the things we're going to lead in our lives will not have monetary value. And those are the most important places we lead, such as our family.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
as a leader of our family, And whether you have a spouse or not, or a partner, I want you to think of yourself as, yes, you are the leader. And that doesn't mean that just because what you say goes. No, that means you are the ultimate servant of everyone else. The best leaders are the first ones to pick up the poop.
Yep. Yep. And I've got to say, going through your bio before the show, an audience, you're going to hear this, you're going to see it in the show notes, but he said one of his accomplishments is looking at his beautiful wife every day. If that's not a family man you want to stand beside and work with, I don't know what is. We're running out of time here. I hope I can bring you back down the road. This is great stuff. My audience is hearing. And I'll tell you, Jason, I'm so pumped. I want to start a company right now, get 100 employees and bring you to speak to them because you sold me. I hope, audience, you're sold. Please reach out to him. I got gift cards for you. He's got a great way to help you connect. God bless what you're doing. Any way I can support you, I'm here for you. One last thing. What's a tip? You left us so many good nuggets, but what's a great tip you can leave the audience to help them in their life and their business?
I joke quite often about the fact that I can do things with my face. And so we're going to lead everyone at the end of this podcast to make sure they go back and watch it as well. But I can do things that other people cannot with my mouth and my nose and my eyebrows. And that's why they need to log in and check this out. But when I share that, I say, I've been doing that my whole life in order to make people laugh because my promise is to spread joy. And I say that you have talents I don't have, and I have talents you don't want. So share your gifts, find your signature moves, and always keep the promise.